Alright guys, now we're going to talk about the EPI infusion. So what is epinephrine? We know that epinephrine is a sympathomimetic drug. It causes an adrenergic receptor mechanism on the effector cells and mimics all the actions of the sympathetic nervous system other than those in the facial arteries and the sweat glands. So what is epinephrine? It's a sympathomimetic. It mimics the sympathetic nervous system. The important effects of epinephrine include increased heart rate, increased contractility, and renin release via the beta-1 receptors. And we'll get a little bit more than that in the semester 2. But remember, key things is it causes increased heart rate and increased force of contraction, myocardial contractility. Now, it can also have some beta-2 effects which produce bronchodilation, which we'll use in conjunction with asthma exacerbation and allergic reaction. So to dig a little bit deeper into the mechanism of action, epinephrine acts on the alpha and beta adrenergic receptors. Epinephrine acts on alpha and beta receptors but has the strongest alpha receptor activator mechanism. Now, I tell people all the time that epi loves everybody, meaning it loves all the adrenergic receptor sites, alpha, beta, dopamine, and so on, but it has the strongest effects in the alpha receptor sites. Through its action on the alpha adrenergic receptors, epinephrine minimizes vasodilation and increases the vascular permeability that occurs during anaphylaxis. Now remember, the more permeable something is, the more easy it is for stuff to pass through those membranes. Okay. Now, if you have this, you can have fluid loss, fluid deficit, and can cause hypotension. Epinephrine also has some beta-2 agonist effects where it releases or relaxes the smooth muscles of the bronchial tree, and you also have some histamine antagonist properties, which means it prevents the release of histamine, and therefore it can be used in the manifestation of allergic reactions and some asthma exacerbation. So how is epi supplied? There's usually 3 ways you see epi in the pre-hospital setting. You see it in a pre-filled cardiac epi syringe. That's your black box you see in your, it's what we call code epi. You'll see it in an ampule or a vial, kind of like you see here, and that's 1 milligram and 1 milliliter. And then you might see it in a large brown vial, usually with a purple top, and it'll be an epi multi-dose, and that's 30 milligrams and 30 milliliters. It's the same as that little small vial there, except it's, instead of 1 milligram and 1 milliliter, it's 30 milligrams and 30 milliliters. Still the same concentration, 1 milligram a milliliter. Now, your cardiac epi in the box you see there, that's 1 milligram and 10 milliliters. So you might hear some people say, give me 1 in 10,000 epi. That's what that is. There's 1 milligram in 10 cc's. 1 milligram, 10 cc's, 1 in 10,000. You might hear them say, give me a 1 in 1,000. That's 1 milligram in 1 cc. It's just an easy way to look at it, okay? Also, guys, don't let that 1 in 10,000 and 1 in 1,000 really confuse you. All that means is how much is diluted. Again, 1 milligram of epi is 1 milligram of epi, and a 1 in 10,000 solution, that just means it's easiest way to think about it is it's mixed in 10 milliliters of solution, where a 1 in 1,000 is still 1 milligram, but instead of 10 milliliters, it's mixed in 1 milliliter. So it's just diluted different. 1 milligram of epi is 1 milligram of epi, no matter how it's diluted. Alright, so how do you mix your epi infusion? So the first thing you're going to do is either take out whatever epi you want to use, whether it be the multi-dose vial, whether it be the 1 milliliter vial, or the cardiac epi. And you just want to inject some epi off into your bag of choice. Usually you have a 500, 250, or 100 bag for infusion such as this. Now you hear some medics do what we call a dirty epi infusion, and that means they'll mix 1 milligram of epi in 1,000 milliliters. Well, if you think about it, 1 milligram of epi is the same as 1,000 micrograms. So you mix 1 milligram in 1,000 milliliters. That's the same thing as saying 1,000 micrograms in 1,000 milliliters, meaning 1 microgram a milliliter. However, you're pouring the fluid to the patient to achieve a lower amount of medication. So I like to mix a larger amount of medicine and a smaller amount of fluid. That way I don't have to use as much fluid to achieve the same amount. Less fluid means not as many drops to have to count in the back of an ambulance. So normally what I'll do is I'll take 4 milligrams, whether it be a multi-dose or cardiac epi. Just remember, if you use the cardiac epi, you might want to go ahead and pull 40 milliliters of fluid out of your bag, considering that a cardiac epi is 10 milliliters. So you want to pull 40 milliliters of normal saline out of your bag, squirt it off in the garbage can, and then take your 4 cardiac epis and squirt over in there. If you're using the multi-dose vial or 4 of the little single milligram vials, then you probably ain't got to squirt any out. It's not going to be that big of a difference. Then if you mix 4 milligrams in a 250 bag, that gives you 16 micrograms to 1 milliliter concentration. Plug it in your master formula, set your rate at what you want it to be, and you got an epi infusion.